Alrighty, hello everyone. So today we're going to be having a look at some different graph types again. So these are going to be the pie and the picture graphs. And I know most of you are probably pretty familiar with the pie graph, like this one here. And what we want to be able to do is actually answer some information based off it. So hopefully most of you will be able to see that we can see that the blue section here is probably the largest section. Then we've got brown is the next biggest, and then green being the smallest. And you can see next to each color, they've also written how many people actually had that. So they've written that 10. Okay, so let's look at the first question. So what was the most frequent eye color? Well, we can see again, just from the size of it, that that's going to be blue. Oh, it's escaping from me. Let's go back. Here we go. So let's try that. So that'll be blue. So what was the least frequent eye color? Well, as again, let's look back at the graph and we can see that green has the smallest section. So that would be green. And so then the next question asks, how many people had brown eyes? Well, let's look at the brown section and we can see that it says 8. So 8 people had brown eyes. The last question asks, how many people were asked? Well, that means we're going to need to add up all of these people. So we've got 10 people who had blue, 8 who had brown, and 4 who had green. So let's add those up. 10 plus 8 plus 4, and that's 22 people were asked in total. Okay? So that's quite a simple one. Now for the next one, I want you to have a go yourselves. Now I've put a little star next to the bottom one just because it's a little bit tougher than the other 3 questions. But have a go at the first 3 questions, pause the video, have a look at this graph. It's to do with the brands of cars. And I want you to come up with what you think you might be able to do that last one. It's a little bit of a trickier question, but I think you'll be able to have a go. Alright, so pause the video now. Let me know how you go. Alright, so for the most common brand, that's going to be our big section again. So in this case, it's going to be Toyota. And the least common car brand, well, it's going to be the small section. So that's going to be Hyundai. And what percentage of the cars were Fords? Well, for sometimes we actually need to calculate the percentage, but in this case we don't. Why? Because it's written right there, 36%, so I don't have to calculate it at all. 36% were Fords. How good is that? All right, so let's look at the bottom one, D. If there were 200 cars, how many of them were Hyundai? Well, we know that of the Hyundai, 18%, well, of these 200 cars, 18% of them would be Hyundais. So we want to find out what 18% of 200 is. So for those of you who didn't know how to do it, I'm hoping that by now you're going to know what I'm going to do next. Because to do 18% of 200, well, that's 18 over 100 times 200. And that means the number of cars is going to be 36 cars were Hyundais. So that was a quick pie chart introduction, and hopefully you'd be able to get those A to C. And if you had a go at D and got it, awesome work. Really good to see. Let's have a look at picture graphs. You probably haven't seen these for a few years. So how do we read a picture graph? Well, we need to look at the key, and the key's down the bottom here. So each one of those little candy symbols, that's 2 pieces of candy, right? So although it looks like Bobby here only has 1 piece of candy, he's actually got 2. Because each one of those candies is representing 2 candies. So let's have a look at that first one. How many candies did Susie have? Well, she had 3 lots of 2. So it's 2 and 2 and 2. So it's 2, 2 and 2. So that would be 6 candies. How many did Julie have? Well, Julie had only 2 of the candy symbols. So that's 2 plus 2. So that's going to be 4 candies. Who had the most candies? Well, that'd be Sam. So that would be Sam, because you can see just from the picture, right, that he's got more than anyone else. He's got 5 and the others only have 4, 3 and 1. And then the last question's a little bit trickier. What percentage of the candies were Bobby's? Well, to do percentage, I need a part and then the whole. Okay, so my part's easy enough. How many did Bobby have? 2. Now I want you to see if you can work out where I get this next number from. 22 times 100. So the 2's because Bobby has 2. Where's the 22 coming from? Well, it's coming from the fact that in total there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22 in total. There are 22 bits of candy in total. So the whole is 22. Why multiply by 100? Because we're finding a percentage. And in this particular case, I'm going to need to use my calculator. 2 over 22 times 100. And we're going to get, oh, it's coming up as a fraction. You see that? So just make sure you use that S to D button to make sure it is a decimal. So it's 9.09%. I'm not going to write out the whole thing. So 9% of them are Bobbies. Alrighty. So your final task for this lesson, have a look at this one. And once again, I've put a little challenge question down the bottom. It's a little bit harder. Each apple in this one represents 20 boxes of apples. Okay? So each apple is 20 boxes. Alright, so have a go through this one. It's a little bit trickier, but I think you'll be able to get it. Alright, so pause the video, have a go through these 4 questions. Alright, so the first one. How many apples were sold in July and August? Well, July and August is down here. You can see they've already highlighted it in yellow, but it's this one here. And there's 2 lots of these apples, which means that we're going to have 2 lots of 20. Well, that's 40 boxes. Alrighty, what about the next one? Which month sold the most apples? Well, let's look for the big one. That would be Jan and Feb. We could see that. / February. And the next one is how many apples were sold in March and April? Well, March, April is down here. Okay, so this one's a little bit trickier because there's a half one, right? So we've got 20, 40, 60, 80. What does half represent though? Well, half of 20 is 10. So that's 20, 40, 60, 80, 90. And last one's the little tricky one. Calculate the percentage of all apples sold in May and June. So in May and June, there were 60 apples sold. In total, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 27 and 2 halves, 28. And that's 28 times 20 each. So that's 560 for the bottom number, times 100 to make it a percentage. So 60 out of 560 times 100. And that gives you, once again, a fraction, but just use the S to D button, 10.71%. A little bit of a tricky question there, but hopefully that wasn't too difficult. Alrighty, hope you had fun. See you next time.